The end of day 47 of the Undercover Policing Inquiry Tranche 2, Phase 2. We've been listening to live evidence of HN1, the former undercover police officer who used the cover name Matt Rayner. I'm joined by Liz Fuller, who was deceived by him into a long-term relationship. What have you made of his evidence this afternoon? Well, today, all day, really.
He's told lies all afternoon, lie after lie after lie, and he does it with such a straight face and such a sophisticated vocabulary that, you know, I can sort of imagine people believing him because they will look at him and listen to him and then maybe listen to some of the activists and assume that because he's obviously sort of senior in, I don't know, something possibly MI5, I don't know. However, Emma was good because she did trip him up a few times. She said, hold on a minute, you said this here, but now you're saying that. Oh, yes, but what I mean is, well, it was generic. And that was one of his favourite words today, was generic, so that he could just sort of cover everything and say nothing, if you know what I mean. I actually fell asleep twice. It was so tedious. And, and it's almost like he believes in his own lies. He believes in his own legend. It's just tiresome, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, his vocabulary was very flowery a lot of the time. And, I mean, he repeated himself a great deal. I mean, I'm not surprised you fell asleep to it. I mean, there's only so many times you can hear people deny things and, like, just, I mean, like this amorphous grey area, all these evolutionary, just utter nonsense so much. Yeah. And so many contradictions.
I know, so many contradictions. And just his favourite words that you hear all the time is clinical, clinical, dot, generic, discursive. And it's just, it's like he swallowed a thesaurus or a dictionary or something and is just sort of like spewing it out all day. And he was caught up a few times, but, caught out a few times, I think, on lies. But he's a professional liar, isn't he? So he will sort of like turn it around and sort of say, oh, well, but perhaps you're right. Maybe I actually don't remember. And that is how he evades the lies, if you know what I mean, so that he avoids looking like a liar by sort of saying, well, yeah, maybe you are right. Perhaps I forgot. And, but there were some things where he said, oh, I categorically did not do this. And it was a blatant lie. He categorically did do that. I was there and I saw him. So, it was quite frustrating and it was just actually making me quite angry because, I know he did these things. He did them in my presence. And, there were other witnesses to it too. But we can't stand up and sort of say, oh, do you remember, all his sort of stuff about, oh, I wouldn't really sort of confront the police. I've got a picture of him in my phone. In a police officer's face, absolutely, looking for confrontation. He used to get off on it. He liked it. So, yeah.
I mean, you've been able to see him giving evidence. You've been in the room. Most of the rest of us are just hearing his voice. You've at least been able to do that. He seems to be squirming quite a lot under the questioning. Was that the case?
To be honest, he's kept quite a poker face. There's been very little facial expression from him. He has kept a poker face. But I have noticed something when he tells lies and he just uses a one-word answer like no. He says no very quietly, maybe like a naughty child. No, it wasn't me. I didn't do that. And I did notice that. But facial expression-wise and body-wise, because you can actually only sort of see from his shoulders down, you can't see if he's fiddling or doing stuff like this. Whereas last time, actually, he was sort of twiddling up here. He didn't do that. And I don't know if he's been practising it on his 2 weeks off at keeping a poker face. But that's what he's doing. He's not really showing very much expression on his face at all. So, it's, I don't know, it's just very, very tedious.
Yeah, I mean, he's denying some really sort of he's lying about some very basic things. I mean, one of his most ridiculous lies is he claimed that he was terrified of distressed dogs and he'd never handled an animal in his life. And it just seems just so over the top and lying about all these really kind of, I mean, there are lots of photographs in the public domain of him handling dogs.
You've seen him, that great big dog that he loved sitting on his lap. He loved dogs and he wasn't afraid of dogs. And in fact, he actually said the way to teach a dog who's boss is pick the dog up, hold them, you know, so they know you're stronger than them. Then they know who's the boss. Then you can kind of, you know, look after them. He wasn't talking about that in an abusive fashion to abuse dogs, but I think he looked after a friend's dog once, and I think one of the first things he did was actually pick the dog up, so the dog knew that he was stronger than the dog. He wasn't afraid of animals. In fact, to be honest, and I don't want to compliment him, but when we were out demonstrating and doing things like that, he was actually fearless.
Yeah, I mean, there's this characterization of himself as like squeamish. Oh, I had no bravado. I don't mind wearing that. It just sounds so unbelievable. It really. I mean, I think he's coming across very badly. He's coming across as someone who's being completely disingenuous. I think that's fairly obvious to anybody who's following proceedings. Though today wasn't live streamed. It's only the transcript that people are going to be able to take from it, which is frustrating because you lose so much of
you lose so much of the real. You know, You lose the context, really, when you just read the transcript. Yeah, you lose the emphasis, you lose the colour to it, kind of thing, yeah, and it's very bland. You know, I was fortunate, I suppose, to go in and be able to watch him, but as I said, facially and physically, he didn't really give much away, but, you know, I know for a fact that he lied all day.
Yeah, we weren't able to hear the majority of today's evidence. It was enclosed. You were able to hear it. We can't really talk about that because the restrictions in place from the inquiry. But one of the things I want, like, just towards the end, he talked about the time when the first time he was arrested whilst he was undercover. One of the things he talked about was whilst he was being held in the prison van, he was convinced the police were about to break in and beat them all up.
Do you know what actually surprised me about that? Well, not really surprised me because I know that this happens, but it was almost like he was condoning police brutality. Yeah, it was like, well, you know, they kind of would have deserved it because the language they were using were foul. So, you know, he was once one of these Met police officers. So did he used to beat his prisoners up as well? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like,
it really does. I mean, it really does. I mean, the fact that he was convinced it was going to happen and was kind of almost surprised that it didn't kind of suggested if it was him, he would have definitely gone in.
Definitely have beaten them up, yeah. Which, you know, again, that completely overturns that idea of being in this mild-mannered, sort of non-aggressive, non-violent kind of person who would shrink away from any confrontation. Which is, you know, like a police officer who's got to his ranking, there's no way you'll get there by being sort of a shrinking violet and shying away from violence and aggression and confrontation.
Yeah, it's a complete farce. I mean, the idea you could be a police officer at all and have a squeamish temperament, you know, I mean, you know, you're going to have to witness the aftermath of violence at the very least. You know?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, you know, even, yeah, you're going to have to always be policing demos, sort of things with riot shields and stuff like that. You're going to scenes of domestic violence. I mean, you're going into places where, I don't know, there are fights. You're going in to see dead bodies, you know, at crime scenes. You know, there's a huge variety of things you see. You cannot be squeamish as a police officer. It's just a total myth. It's rubbish. And how he expects anybody to believe that, I don't know. But he does sort of say it with... I don't know. He says it almost like, you know, like really genuinely. Oh no, you know, I don't really. But obviously not. I mean, he was a schizophile. He used to cycle everywhere. He used to run. I mean, he looks very thin now. I don't know if he's been ill, had an illness or something. But you know, he used to be sort of quite a big, broad bloke. And you know, as it was reported, you know, like when he went hunt subbing. I think the guy's actually got a cipher, so I won't mention his name, but I do know who it is, and he was one of the best hunt subs there was. And he said himself, Matt used to love getting stuck in. And, you know, he reported that himself, so...
Yeah, absolutely. This afternoon about The Machine. I mean, particularly when he was talking about, you know, misleading courts, which he said, well, you know, he was perfectly comfortable with misleading a court, but that was up to the machine to decide. He talked about... that, you know, being hearing a legal professional privilege and reporting on it, well, that was for the machine to decide. He really wanted to abdicate a lot of his responsibility to the machine, as he kept saying.
Yeah, it's sort of like a big sort of George Orwell concept, isn't it? Let's just put it all down to sort of like, yeah, this system is responsible for a lot, but the fact is he was using it to abdicate responsibility for himself so that he didn't have to name anybody. Bob Lambert sort of seemed to be one of his heroes. That was his direct superior, so he didn't want to put it on him, he didn't want to name him, so he would just go the machine, the system. I had complete faith in the system and the machinations. It was just a way of putting up a wall of anonymity and passing the responsibility into that wall of anonymity. And that was what he was doing. It was just the way he sort of excused his actions and behaviour. It's, I was just doing my job.
Yeah, it's coming. It's that excuse we've heard from so many of them. I was just following orders. Yeah. I mean, it's not really my fault. Anything that went wrong, it was all coming from on high, and I just did as I was told. Yeah. We've heard that before. At this inquiry, we heard it in Nuremberg, right? Do you know what I mean? It's the oldest excuse in the book. It's been a fairly long day. It's been a longer day for you than everybody else because you've been in there. There's another full day tomorrow. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think there is, but thanks, Tom. And, are you in tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be here tomorrow reporting on everything as it happens. Will you be here?
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow then.
Right on, yeah. Tomorrow at the inquiry for this tranche. It'll be back again in October, so if anybody wants to come along and hear anything that's said tomorrow, you have to be here in person. It won't be live streamed. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. I'll do a Twitter Spaces this evening. Tune into that if you're able to, and see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Bye for now.